a good trip.
Well, this will take some time.
Everybody, welcome. I don't, there was just a little delayed even hearing it from your headset. That's weird. Okay, so welcome. I hope everybody's ready for a good time tonight. We're going to party. We got a lot of stuff to get to, so we're going to rush right to it. Oh, that was playing. Okay, I'm muting that. That was actually playing through the thing. That's why there was the delay. That answers that. Hi, I'm Kai Zen. I'm your host. I hope you can hear me fine. If you cannot, please say so. With us is Roy. Say hi, Roy.
Good evening, everyone. Glad to be with you.
Absolutely. And of course, we have, as always, Tweak. Say hi, Tweak.
Friday night, everybody. We made it once again.
Hell yes. And our main man in the control booth is Kontrolldon. Say hi, Control.
Hello, beautiful people, and it's Friday. And yeah, om det är några svenskar där ute, hoppas ni har en bra kväll. Hej.
Absolutely. All right, guys. We're going to get rushing through this because we've got a lot to do tonight. So let's start with the shout outs. Hello, Wintermute and Load 200. We've got Big C75, SP4H. We got Unisakashiro. I'm missing Unisakashiro stories. Now that we've upgraded our whole Roy Stories bit, I can't wait. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm enjoying this season of Mac Winston, but I can't wait to complete the season and get back to some Unisakashiro, where we left off was very exciting, and also get some new writers in there as well. Let's see here. We've got Border Patrol. What up, brother? Let's see. Biotic Keen. Hello. 4 English lies. English. Yeah. We got Doe 1971. All right. And who do we have over on the Twitch?
As soon as I get into it, I'll let you know.
Okay.
Having trouble getting to the link, actually. It keeps pulling me back to the March show.
I'm seeing we've got Wise Guy in chat. I sort of switched over. We got Commander McPherson. Hello, hello. All right. So hello to the Twitch people. There are lurkers in Twitch, but that's okay. We still love you. And also hello to Jezok in the YouTube, on the YouTube. All right. Let's get this stuff started. Control, hit it.
Hey, pretty baby, with them high heels on, you give me fever like I never ever known. You're just a product of loveliness. I like the groove of your walk, your talk, your dress. I feel your fever from miles around. I pick you up in my car and we'll fade the town. I just kiss me, baby, and tell me twice that you're the one for me. Yeah. The way you make me feel, you really turn me on. You knock me off of my feet now, baby. My lonely days are gone. Ooh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I like the feeling you're giving me, baby. Just hold me, baby, and I'm in ecstasy. Oh, I'll be working from that 9 to 5 to buy you things that'll keep you right by my side. I never looked so young, that love before. Just hold me, baby, and love me forevermore. I swear I'm keeping you satisfied, 'cause you're the one for me. The way you make me feel, you really turn me on. You knock me off of my feet, baby. My lonely days are gone. Ooh, yeah, yeah, the way you make me feel, you really turn me on. You know you knock me off of my feet, baby. Yeah, my lonely days are gone. They're gone. Ooh, the way you make me feel.
Hello, hello, and welcome to Elite Week. Woo! We made it. Episode 71, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Galactic Water Cooler, Friday, April 9th, 2021. I am your host, Kai Zen, and it's Friday night, and we're going to party. With us, as always, is my XO and main man, Roy. Say hi, Roy.
Happy Friday, everyone. Glad you're with us.
Absolutely. And we got our tactical officer, Tweak74. Say hi, Tweak.
Hello, everybody. And hey, guys, I think you locked the door on the Cobra. I can't get out, and it smells kind of weird in here.
Yeah, well, enjoy your Michael Collins moment. And in the control booth, we've got Kontrolldon. Say hi.
Hello, everyone. Hope you're having an awesome night.
Absolutely. All right. So let's get right to this. First off, right off the bat, I want to go ahead and give a huge salute and a shout out to Roy for hosting last week. He did a phenomenal job. So we got a lot of great feedback. People love that. I've talked to Roy, and we're going to see if we can talk him into hosting every once in a while, maybe every other one or once a month or pretty much as he'd like to, because I enjoyed it. It was relaxing.
Thanks, man.
Absolutely. So let's hit the opening and closing song. The opening song is The Way You Make Me Feel by Scary Pockets with Therese Curatolo. She's got such a lovely voice. And the closing song has a tie-in to part of our discussion later, and it's I Can't Go For That by CeeLo Green and Daryl Hall. The cover art this week was Bullet Hell, and that is a artifact of the fact that when you fire off the gun in, at a settlement or whatever in Odyssey Alpha, the bullet holes stay there. They're persistent. They stay there until you sort of leave the instance. So somebody took the opportunity to make some art, and I thoroughly approve, and also of the sentiment. All right, so tonight we'll be covering news from this week in the live build of Elite, as well as community news. We'll show you the first sneak peek at a new SRV, plasma weapons, and the plant gun gameplay. We'll be discussing the good, the bad, and the ugly of Odyssey Alpha, and we'll be talking about how you can win 5 billion credits. All this and more, so stay tuned.
If you're listening to us on the podcast and would like to see the live show and visuals, check us out on YouTube at youtube.com/Elite Week and on Twitch at twitch.tv/Elite Week. If you're watching us on YouTube or Twitch and would like to know how to catch us on our podcast, check out anchor.fm/Elite Week.
For sending us your thoughts by email, you can reach us at eliteweek3306@gmail.com.
Our very active and growing Elite Week Discord can be found at tinyurl.com/Elite Week Discord, where you can check out or contribute to community feedback, resources on turning the wheel, and real-time updates about Elite from a variety of content creators.
In addition to the Discord community feedback channel, feel free to write in our YouTube comments anything about the topic of the week, as well as anything else you'd like to share. We'd love to hear from you. Also, if you're enjoying the show on YouTube, please make sure to like and subscribe and click on the bell. It really helps us out. On Twitch, a follow would be much appreciated.
If you're on Twitter, feel free to follow at EliteWeek3306 for news and information about Elite Dangerous and cool sci-fi and space news.
We record live on YouTube every Friday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 1 a.m. UTC, so come and join in on the fun.
If you're listening to us on the podcast, please make sure to rate and review us on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever platform you use. And let us know if there's a format you want us to look into.
We don't do Patreon, so save your money and just tell your friends about the show.
It's the Dark Will Update.
All right, so let's jump right into the Dark Wheel update. First off, I got to give a huge shout out to the Black Sky Legion. That's the official squadron of the Dark Wheel Initiative. That's BSL1 on the PC. Black Sky Legion. Come join us and have some fun. So where are we at with this? We completed successfully phase 1 goal, Test of Soul. We were right next to Soul, and we jumped past Soul by a good bit and landed in 86 Mu Hercules. So that confirms once and for all that the Dark Wheel cannot move into Soul. That 7th slot that's sitting there empty, don't know what it's for, but it's not for the Dark Wheel, at least not yet. So at this point, I think we kind of have to assume that that's set aside for some future content on Frontier's part, and that when they want us to do something with it, they'll tell us. When we jumped into Mu Hercules, we came 2-0 on the invasion. We're 2-0 now on the invasion war, and we're expected to sweep it on Sunday, 4-0. So we're working that, and we're going to keep on going with this. I want to make a brief comment on expectations. A lot of people have said, like, hey, I didn't see anything happen with this. I'm mad. Why did Frontier not do something? Why did this? Why did that? I just want to say up front, we weren't guaranteed of anything on this, on this test. We have expanded. We've done our best to do a big thing and to do it well. And part of what we wanted to do here was to demonstrate to Frontier that there's a lot of their players for which the story and lore and narrative are important, and specifically the mysteries of Raxxla and the Dark Wheel are important. And I think we've done a good job of demonstrating that. Now we're moving on to, you know, securing our footing in Mu Hercules, and we're going to look to, in the not too distant future, go deal with the next phase, which is LFT 509. I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to all of the people that worked so hard to make this happen and to make it such a great success. And I want to give a shout out to the Burr Pit, who just today in Witch Space News dropped a shout out to us and a salute for our successful completion of this phase of the mission. I will say, I feel of all of the targets that we've taken, I feel the most hopeful that LFT 509 would be a, you know, a thing and would be where something happens, if anything. So I'm excited for what's to come. And as far as, again, expectations, I would say that, you know, nothing is owed to us, but I think that Frontier would probably, I would hope, would be savvy enough to look at the fact that thousands of their players have engaged in an activity over you know, a year, and I would hope that they would in some way address that, in some way respond or acknowledge that work, and acknowledge the fact that back at a time when there wasn't anything going on in the galaxy a year ago, there was no GalNet, there was no CGs, everything was on hold. We were keeping it going, and their players were grinding away at it to show, you know, their support and to show their activity within the game. And I just hope that Frontier acknowledges that. Nothing is owed here, but one can hope. So, yeah, that's what's happening. And now let's move on to, I've broken up tonight's current stuff into a couple of categories, and the first is comedy. We're going to start with a video by Spatula 7 Elite Dangus Space Court. It's a 20-minute long video, 21-minute long video, and it is hilarious. We had Spatula on, you know, the other week, and he was such a great guest, and it was a phenomenal time, and he makes such great videos. I'm not going to spoil anything. You've got to go see this. I will give you the slightest of spoiler alerts and say that there is some involvement of the Dark Wheel mystery in that, so go check it out. A link is in the show notes. Also, speaking of comedy, I've got a pair of videos here by Burger Ant. Is Elite dangerous for gamer dads? Phenomenal interview with an awesome content creator. And earlier in the week, Valkyrie, an assassination plot cover-up. That video is maybe one of the funniest things I've seen in a long, long time. So both of those are in the show notes. We love Burger Ant. Go and check those out. We also have a video from Boon Labs, a new channel that is putting out, it's specifically a subgroup within the Burr Pit group that I think Primetime Casual pretty much is heading up, or is at least one of the spokespeople for it. And it's Odyssey trying out the hoverboards, aka they're trying to ride on foot. They're trying to surf on skimmers. 2-minute long video, hilarious, awesome content. Check it out. While you're there, hit that subscribe button on the Boon Labs. You want to see what they're showing. Also, again, from the Burr Pit, Peter the Sleeper tribute Conga event. This one has made the rounds. You've seen it everywhere. Frontier showed it off. Lave showed it off. Everybody showed it off because it's awesome. Very cool song by like a bespoke song made by Toko So to go for it. And they did a hilarious little tribute video to Peter the Sleeper, the guy who's famous for sleeping on that one bench. It's the kid from Powder. He's really sleepy for some reason. The little bald pale kid. Next up, and this is really, really funny. Go ahead and throw up the picture control. There's a weird Odyssey glitch that is just happening. This is hot off the presses. People are intermittently falling through the floor in the elevator and ending up falling right out of the station and out into space. Look, this is alpha. It's a bug. It's not something to get overly upset about. It'll get fixed, of course. But in the meantime, let's take a moment to enjoy this picture and salute the brave men and women, those fine elite commanders who are the first ever to EVA an elite. Salute. Sláinte. All right. Now let's move on to some general news. I teased you right up front with you can win 5 billion credits. I'm not going to make you wait. Here's what it's all about. There's a 5 billion credit giveaway to celebrate the 1-year anniversary of the Fleet Carrier Owners Discord. They're giving away 5 billion credits to one lucky winner. Applicants must not own a fleet carrier or have the money to have a fleet carrier already. So this is basically for all of those people out there that are like, man, I wish I had a fleet carrier, but oof, that's a lot of money and I don't feel like grinding. And I know there's a lot of people in that boat. The cutoff for entries is 7 a.m. UTC GMT on Thursday, 15th of April, 2021. And the prize winner will be posted in the announcements channel on Sunday, the 18th of April, 2021. And then it says, please see the carrier giveaway rules channel for details. I have a link in the show notes to the Fleet Carrier Owners Discord. Go sign up and get yourself 5 billion credits and get a fleet carrier and have some fun with that. All right. And next I want to hit the Burr Pit news. Witchspace News dropped as of today. They talk all about phase 2 of the alpha, the Adamastor Awakens, and turning the wheel. It's phenomenal stuff in there. The Burr Pit, as always, are fantastic. But this week they outdid themselves. And that's not just my opinion. David Braben about, an hour ago, tweeted that it was a fantastic video. So it got that David Braben seal of approval. Roy.
I was amazed at the visuals they were catching of the CZs, the on-foot CZs. I mean, they've always got phenomenal camera work with Rini, and this time it was really awesome as well. So if you don't have access to the alpha or you haven't seen these CZs or you just want to check it out, they've got a lot of that interspersed in their video, and it's really cool.
Right on. Next up, why don't you go ahead, Control, and pull up the video for this, the SRV leak. While I explain it, I'm going to go ahead and just keep it on a loop while I talk through it. Yamix put out a video about SRV leaks. He recently published a video with all manner of leaks information, and a lot of it was sort of fairly public. It was the stuff that was circulated on Reddit, and we mentioned it sort of last week obliquely on the show. He's also has captured footage of one of the 3 new types of SRVs, the Scorpion. The other 2 being named the MEV Rhino and the SRV Mark II configuration, in addition to the current SRV, which is labeled in the computer code as default buggy. Now, while these leaks are always brought to me beforehand, it's long before I see Yamix post them. I always get the people bring, hey, there's this, hey, there's that. And I never officially comment on it on the show. I always look, I'll be honest, I look because I'm nosy, but I don't actually talk about it on the show, and I don't promote it. I don't show the videos. I don't whatever. But the fact of the matter is another content creator has already made this public, has posted the video, and it's a situation that now it's public knowledge, and it's it's for every content creator to comment on and to look into and to discuss. So at this point, I no longer consider this like a private link that was brought to me. This is public information to be commented on. So I talked to the guy who always brings me stuff, and I said, hey man, how come you didn't bring me this? This was interesting. I never saw this. And his comment was kind of interesting as well. He said that it's either a fake or it came from the Russians, and apparently they have some methods that they use to access information that include steps that he is not willing to take. So basically what he does is like surface level skimming of like stuff that's just there in the code and easily accessible to be seen. Apparently they do some other thing that is quasi I don't know, something else, and he's like, yeah, I'm not interested in doing that. That's not kosher. So, okay. I'm definitely not engaging in digging through Frontier's, dirty laundry, but I will for sure comment on a community involved video that's out there for people to see, and I find that video is interesting. I don't know if it's fake. I spent a lot of time looking at the rocks and the scenery and like, whoa, is this something that somebody could create in another thing or whatever? But Unreal Engine or whatever, but it looks pretty legit. I know I'm interested. I know the Scorpion is definitely that matches with other hints and leaks, whatever, that have been independently that have been verified that it is mentions of stuff in the code. So I don't know. What do you think? I find it interesting. I especially like the names of the other two SRVs. You've got a SRV Mark II, which is like, okay, that's more of a let's change around this whatever. But then you have an MEV Rhino, and I'm thinking to myself, MEV, mining excavation vehicle, like a big dump truck maybe. And a rhino, you picture sort of a big hulking animal with a horn, like something that you could almost dig. Like, I don't know. It's got me excited, and I hope that we're going to be seeing something about SRVs in the not too distant future. I know Frontier said not right at the jump, but maybe later. So, like, fingers crossed. Next up, we've got alpha stuff, and I'm only going to pull out a handful of things specifically that I want to highlight here. The first is Commanders Will and Kate. If you have not checked out their channel, you need to go subscribe to their channel because they are killing it lately. They put out 3 videos this week that I found of particular interest, and I have all 3 linked in the show notes for you. The first is a look at the plasma weapon. The second is a look at the Artemis suit and life scanner. And the third is SRV is an absolute tank in CZs, in combat zones. Now, the plasma weapon and the Artemis suit, that was an interesting sort of weird quirk, sort of situation normal. Frontier, when they released Phase 2 on Thursday morning, they accidentally released the Artemis suit and the plasma weapon, the Artemis suit being part of Phase 3 and the plasma weapon not even being on the list for things to be available for people during the 4 phases that were listed on the alpha testing. And right away, these guys and some others made videos of like, hey, here's what the plasma weapon looks like. Here's what it does. Here's how it behaves. Here's the plant gun. Here's how that goes. And they put out a very, very cool video, especially the plant gun video. I found it very, very, very compelling as far as it showed the 2 modes of it, where you can go with the first mode is basically kind of like an equivalent of how you use the scanner or whatever when you're mining for core asteroids. You use that little pulse wave scanner. So it puts out a pulse wave and then sort of plants in your area sort of glow just the same way as certain rocks will glow. And then you can run up to those plants, switch the mode to the genetic sample collecting. And it's a very cool little mini game, which we're going to show you here in just a minute in another part, that it spins around these little things, and you have to kind of match up the genome thing so that you can, it's a neat little mini game. You'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. But all 3 of those videos are amazing, and the SRV is an absolute tank. That video shows why you don't want to take frontline solutions. I mean, you might want to take them 1 time or 2 to enjoy the ride and to see that cool, being dropped onto the field in a hot drop situation. But after that, sign up for frontlines, take your own ship, park right outside the town, hop out in your SRV, because you could just drive around and you run people over and you're shooting them with your SRV repeater, and you're just like ripping through them like it's nothing. It's hilarious and crazy overpowered fun. So for people that basically are like, I don't like CZs. I'm not a Twitch combat guy, but I kind of need, for some reason, to do a CZ because my minor faction is pushing on me to, or I want a reward or something. Go do it in an SRV, and it's basically going to be like you showed up to a ship a CZ in a fully engineered vet, and everybody else is flying around in just like, type 10s. It's like everything's an easy target, and you rip right through them. So yeah, check those out. In addition, we've got a Google Doc by Commander DENGO. Odyssey Alpha Phase 1 tips, tricks, and general guide. Even though I know we're in Phase 2 now, that guide is several pages of documentation that shows, like, here's how this works, here's how that works, here's how this tool works, here's how the doors work, here's how this works. Everyone should take a look at that guide, skim through it, and you're going to see something where you're like, oh, I didn't catch that part, and it will have useful information for you. And lastly, on the current community news, we've got a video by Down to Earth Astronomy that he did, Commander's Toolbox, where to find all the materials you may need in Odyssey Alpha. Basically, what he's done is he's added a little section of functionality to his Commander's Toolbox where other people and him are reporting as they go through, okay, I got this material in this kind of location, and literally it's, okay, is it an industrial base or an agricultural base or a military base? Is it in the HAB building, the industrial building, the power building? Is it in a terminal or in a room that has a door of like door 01 or door 02? Because they have different sort of door numbers and different whatever. They'll show you, okay, this is in a hallway, this is outside, this is whatever. And it's just a great resource if you need to find a location for a material going forward. And that takes us to Frontier News.
For news beyond the game, it's Frontier News.
There were 2 streams this week. The Tuesday stream was Super Cruise News number 29 with Bruce and Art. Link is in the show notes. The Thursday stream was the Alpha Phase 2 launch day stream with Zach, Bruce, and Art. Link is in the show notes. We didn't end up getting the stream that was mentioned that we were supposed to get, which was the UI team coming on for a specific thing to, take a bow and to talk about the UI changes. Hopefully that comes next week because it was supposed to come on Thursday. In addition to that, they debuted in the Thursday stream a special video about the Conflict Zones Phase 2 trailer. Control, go ahead and bring that up. Hello.
Hey guys, I'm Arthur, and today we're running down everything you need to know about conflict zones in 60 seconds. Start the timer. Settlements owned by factions that have entered the war background state can become conflict zones and will remain that way until the war is resolved. You can choose to take part in a conflict zone and fight for either side of one of these warring factions. After signing up to a conflict zone, fly there in your ship, drive there in your SRV, or arriving style via the dropship, which you can pick up directly from the Frontline Solutions desk.
Count pack.
Conflict zones are 12 versus 12 battles, with each side comprising of both players and AI. To win, you will need to deplete the enemy reinforcements, either by killing their troops or by capturing the vital comms points located around the conflict zone.
Yeah. We're watching this, we're listening.
If you win, not only will you receive a bonus, but your victory is added to the simulation and contributes to the outcome of the war. Returning from a conflict zone is as easy as how you arrived, either via your ship or SRV, or simply recall the Frontline Solutions dropship and head back to the planet or starport you came from. You can trade your combat bonds for credits. You'll get combat bonds for every enemy that you kill. The value of those combat bonds scales to the rank of those enemies. If you die during the conflict zone, don't worry, you won't lose any of the combat bonds you have acquired. And that's a wrap. Thanks for watching, and please remember to share your war stories with us as we explore the Elite Dangerous Odyssey Alpha.
All right. So In addition to that, they posted on the forums several hot fixes throughout the week, but I just want to call out one specifically. They posted a hot fix just a couple hours ago, and in that hot fix, the last point, they said they reverted the SRV controls back to the Horizons mode. So a huge congrats to the racers out there, Elite Racers, Buckyball Racers, and all of those fans of the old school SRV. I toast you on your success. In addition, PC Gamer put out an article saying Odyssey's taxis are delightfully rubbish. The link is in the show notes. I think you get the gist of it. I don't really need to explain what they're saying any further, but if you want to see it, you can see it. Which takes us to the GalNet news. Roy, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, here's the rundown. We had on April 5th, the wedding of Hadrian Duval. On April 6th, Federation begins anti-terrorist monitoring. 2 stories on the 8th, a Neo-Marlinist faction defeated in battle, and the awakening of the Adamastor. And then just today, Imperial Senator visits Marlinist colonies. I don't know about you, but the awakening of the Adamastor seems to be the top of that pile as far as interesting things.
I think, well, I mean, they're all interesting in their way. The whole Hadrian Duval thing, it's like, okay, is this going to produce an heir? Is that going to be a sort of threat to the continuing line? Because ADL doesn't have children. On the Federation begins the anti-terrorist monitoring. That seems very Patriot Act-y, weird. I'm not for it to me. The Neo-Marlinist thing, yeah, I'm glad they got defeated. The awakening of the Adamastor, like you said, that's the big, super interesting one. And but also very interesting was this last one, the one that just came in today. The Imperial Senator visits the Marlinist colonies. That was maybe a step towards reconciliation between the peaceful Marlinists and the Empire. Whoever this, so far, all of the steps of the Empire towards the Marlinists, the peaceful Marlinists, have been very tone deaf, very heavy-handed, very, very shitty. And as a result, I think the player base has largely sided against the Empire over and over and over on this matter. And recently, you've got a situation where finally it wasn't the Empire fighting against the Marlinist, peaceful Marlinist. It was the Empire fighting against the Neo-Marlinist terrorists this week. And everybody sort of supported, the Empire. And now you have this article of this senator who visited and seemed very open and very honest and very forthright and very sort of charitable and acting in goodwill towards the Marlinists, saying, hey, these guys are like us, and I think there could be an asset to help us fight the terrorists. Let's stop handling things in the Dentus Petraeus way, and let's start trying to be more compassionate, not just out of, general hippie love, but out of self-preservation. If we act like jerks to these people, we're going to push them to the other side. But if we approach them openly and honestly and try to appeal to our common sense of decency, they can help us to sort of root out and cut ties with the terrorists. And I dig that, man.
Yeah, that's the fact-finding trip that in last week's stories, the local media in the Empire had really poo-pooed and were harshly judging. And yeah, this is definitely a more apologist outcome of that visit.
Yeah. How about the community goals? Let's talk about last week's.
Yeah, so the victory went to the Empire. So both of them finished, although neither of them got to tier 1. Although the fact that the
the Empire got to tier 2 or 3, they succeeded. The Marlinists did not get to tier 1.
I had that reversed. I was thinking they didn't win the full. They didn't get to full tiers.
Yes,
I was trying to say.
Correct.
They got to tier 2. The other one got to tier 0. So the victory went to the
to the railgun.
Yep. So
the railgun.
The railgun won. Yeah,
Wow.
That's another way
Wow.
to position these.
Wow.
So the top 75% get the long range high cap railgun
Mhm.
on that side. So
I will point out that the top 10% for the Neo Marlinus did, even though they did not hit tier 1, they still did get their reward of the missile racks. I guess Frontier FDev decided like, hey man, these guys, because the top 10%, they actually had to do some work. They did some lifting. And so Frontier decided to acknowledge their efforts and gave them the reward anyways. Funnily enough, the 75% for the winning side sort of didn't get anything because, well, I mean, they did, but there's a hitch. It's sort of snafu, situation normal, all effed up. Those of us like myself who were in the top 75% of the Empire on this side, when you go to collect the module, when you go to say like, hey, ship this module to me or whatever, it says it's a criminal, it's not
Legal
clean.
issues.
You have legal issues.
Oh.
So you have to actually pay money to clean the module before you can ship it. This is a known glitch. Many people have complained. If you don't care about spending the whatever 200 grand or whatever to clean it, do that and get it now. If that bothers you, if that sticks in your craw, just wait. I guarantee you by Tuesday at the latest, maybe Wednesday, Frontier will have fixed it so the modules will not be listed as criminal legal issues. They'll be ready for you to ship over to you.
good.
Why don't you so this week, Roy, there is no CG, yeah?
Correct.
But
No CG.
but there is something. Do you want to hit that one or do you want me to?
No, I can read off. The
Go
ARTEMIS
for it.
mystery has begun its second round. There's now the hunt for the sister ship, the Hesperus, which we caught some clues from, some heads up about that last week. So there's some clues were given out in the GalNet article, Awakening of the Atomaster, which we mentioned. And it's led to commanders to investigate a message that is now up on screen about a mysterious person or entity asking for help to search down a signal. So this was deciphered and it's led to a listening post, and there's some more codes. There's 2 more outposts to find, and refreshingly, it has not been solved yet. So
Yeah, that is
still
nice,
open
isn't it?
for investigation.
Mm-hmm. And read further down.
2 more outposts to find. That was the last bit there.
Yep. Upon further investigation, there are 2 more outposts that are yet undiscovered. Yep. So yes. Now, all right, let's all go around and place our bets. I say right now that the mystery man who's sending you on this mission is Palin. I'm locking in my bet. What do you think, Roy?
Well, he's certainly got the strongest connection to early Thargoid technology. I'd say that's a pretty safe bet. I'm trying to think if he has an antagonist who might be trying to compete with that.
I mean, it says, suffice it to say, I'm a man of science, so I'm thinking Palin, Ramtah, but I'm thinking more Palin.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to go against you on that bet. It seems pretty good.
What do you think, Tweaked?
Yeah, I don't know who else it could possibly be, really. Yeah, Palin was the one that I thought of when I read it the other morning. And if it's not him, it could just be somebody we don't know yet. The elusive man.
Tweaked immediately read that, and he just pictured John Cena in his mind. All right. So that's where we're at this week. I do want to take just a moment to acknowledge something. Again, I said this last week when I thought that it was going this way, and I'm going to say it again to confirm it this week. I really want to salute Frontier for, at a time when a lot of people are just knee deep into the alpha. Frontier is doing a good job of keeping things alive and spicy in the in-game universe with these like interesting CGs and, a mystery that's going on and all of these sort of different things and the stories and whatnot. And so just big salute. I dig that. Good job. All right. That takes us to a video that we have. Now, this video comes courtesy of the Elite Racers. Basically, for those that remember the old Red versus Blue, the series of videos that were you know, the old what is it, Halo or whatever videos that were great. They're going to do their own series, and they're going to really get going with it in earnest when it comes to what do you call it, like Odyssey launches and it's out. But they did a sort of promo video that's like a, I don't know, like a 10, 11 minute long video that's super cool. It's funny, it's tongue in cheek, it's, you know, it's the Elite Racers and then a handful of other, you know, people that you will know, like Alec Turner and you know, this one and that one, that are just like sort of staples of the race community. Funny stuff, very, very cool. And I will say this, little heartbroken for all the work that I've done promoting the Elite Racers and all of and the race community. They debuted this video on Lave Radio this week earlier. I know, right? Ouch, second class citizens, but whatever. Maybe, you know, with all the work that we've done, they'll premiere their next video on Elite Week. But in the meantime, Control, go ahead and play the video.
I want all hands on deck. Sick!
I have a hair appointment at 4. Bradley, did you empty the waste bins like I told you last night?
My piloting is excellent. Thank you very much. I would be more than happy to take over landing controls for you, Miss Venador.
Fine.
I'm detecting no targets beside ourselves on sensors, Commander Hagen. Well, there's something. What the hell is that? Yeehaw! This is tight. Come on, geezer. Hey, hold up. I'm waiting on shields.
Oh, bagels. Oh, don't worry, honey. Well. Just who do we have snooping around here? You son of a bitch.
Hey there, team.
All right, so good stuff. Go check out the full video. It's like a 10.5-minute video. It's funny, phenomenal views, phenomenal camera work, good stuff. Let me just do this. Right on. Now, we've come to the discussion portion of the evening. Elite Odyssey Alpha discussion, week 2. This is the Odyssey Alpha breakdown. We've got the good. That's going to be the first column. Then we're going to do the bad, the ugly, and the missing is the second column. Then we're going to talk about what we want going forward. Right off the bat, let's start off with the good. Huge, I cannot stress this enough. Huge, phenomenal, much excite, great feelings for the graphical upgrades to existing assets. They seem amazing so far. The hyperspace jump, Control, go ahead and throw that one up. The hyperspace jump is incredible. I love the way that it looks. And you can even see somebody had a video of it where it's side by side, but I just wanted to enjoy the full majesty of that hyperspace jump. So nice. The PBR materials, physical base rendering of materials. Basically, it makes everything in the galaxy, ships, stations, SRVs, basically every physical asset in the game look more real, look more vibrant, have better shading. It is choice. The planet tech. I can't stress enough how much the planets look amazing. Now, a small note, the Hooners out there are complaining that the planets may be a little too flat. But, you know, we only have access to 20 light years just yet. Maybe it gets better when they get sort of able out there to see, you know, some more of the 400 billion star systems and the planets that they include. Maybe Frontier can dial down the flattening effects from the gravity just a smidge. I don't know. I'm an idiot. So I far be it from me to in any way, you know, suggest to Dr. K whatever, but I'm just saying if it's crazy hard, obviously don't do it. But I mean, if it's not all that crazy hard, maybe just dial it back just a little bit so that we can get a little more of the, because my understanding is in this sort of update, they took more real scientific gravity effects into sort of into the thought process. So on the heavier worlds, you would end up with less sort of high mountains, wide valleys, deep canyons, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know. But yeah, I just want to suggest that the Hooning community seems to be having an issue that the planet seems a little too flat and unexciting for them. But for me, looking at everything, it's just so beautiful. Tweaked.
Yeah, I was going to say kind of what you did there. I mean, I've said it before, I'm not a SRV aficionado, so I don't use it all the time, but I have been on a lot of planets throughout. And most of them that we have right now in the base game are pretty flat, really. Most of them. I mean, you get your outliers here and there. So I would contend with the 20 light year bubble, you're probably just seeing that right now. You don't have all the varieties that are going to be out there yet.
Absolutely. Roy?
Yeah, I just think it's too early to make any snap judgments about all that. There's a huge variety, and I'm sure it's not just, I mean, they made it, I think it was kind of an offhand comment in that stream about, yes, maybe maybe they have adjusted the average. I think there's still going to be plenty of outliers if I had to place a bet. So another thing for explorers to go help find, to find cool spots to do that stuff.
Right on. Another amazing thing, I want to call out the vegetation. Now, I have heard some knocks about these plants looking too colorful and No Man's Sky cartoony-ish, but I feel that the contrast of the vibrant vegetation on the more sort of muted color palettes of Elite's realistic looking planets is fantastic. And I greatly approve of the abundance of vegetation. If anything, I'd love to see that proliferate as we get more sort of robust atmospheres. I get it that you're going to have sort of smaller clumps of plants and whatever on the tenuous atmospheres, but as we get into more robust atmospheres, fingers crossed, as we continue the atmospheric spectrum, opening up more of that, I don't want to see it go the other way. I don't want to see it to go more muted. I want to see it go more abundant and just keep going with that. I think it is absolutely amazing. I love it. Massive thumbs up. Roy.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's pretty common knowledge exploration is one of my favorite loops in this game, and having visited countless bark mounds and occasional everything else, for me it was always a bit stretching immersion to find these sort of nearly circular pockets of exactly the same thing and then complete barren landscape for hundreds of kilometers around each one. What really appealed to me about this clip was just seeing things mixed up, things mixed in with each other. It just, for me, looks so much more interesting and varied, and it'll just make the exploration more enriching.
All right. Tweaked, go ahead and go with your point, and then we're going to have Control play the video with the sound so that we can see that very short clip of the amazing plants. Go, Tweaked.
Yeah, I was just going to second that, really. I mean, part of the reason I don't love driving the SRV around is because really on these planets right now that I have on Xbox, on the base game, there's not much to see out there. It all looks the same. The planets look pretty good. There's different colors here and there, but most of the time you're driving around looking at flat rocks. To see colors thrown in, it doesn't look cartoony. It looks nothing like No Man's Sky. You go to No Man's Sky and you got colorful plants on colorful grass, on colorful animals running around. That's cartoony. This looks real. You go out in the real world and you see different colors and stuff like that. So I can absolutely not wait. And I could absolutely see the variety of colors and plants and stuff like that to see out there might entice me to drive the SRV more, to go actually exploring on the planet and see what I can find out there.
Here. Control, play the clip. All right. So that's for a longer clip of that, you can go check out the Will and Kate thing, but they didn't do so much of the mini game. What they did was just the what do you call it? The honking or pulsing to see the plants light up. Yeah. And the reason why I think on the Will and Kate clip they didn't do the actual mini game right is because they knew what this guy found out, which is we're not supposed to have that tool yet. When you get to the point where yes, you've succeeded and have collected the sample, it crashes your game. Okay, we'll see that in, I would think, 2 weeks. We'll see. So yeah, but we'll see that next phase, and I am excited for it because it looks fantastic. So next up, I want to highlight, this is a small thing, but I think it's just, to me, amazing. On the Super Cruise representation of other ships, gone is the old sort of orangish Firefly with a comet tail, and now you have this J.J. Abrams Star Trek-esque lens flare, kind of whitish, bluish, spectacular, whatever. I absolutely love it. I adore it, and I didn't not like the old one. I liked the old one just fine until I saw the new one, and now that I've seen the new one, I'm like, oh yeah, forget the old one. Roy.
Yeah, just a quick comment. Between that and also the new Super Cruise jump sequence, I think they both just look more refined. And it's,
hyperspace jump sequence.
The hyperspace jump sequence
yes.
and the Super Cruise flare, if you want to call it that. I think they both look much more refined. It's a subtle thing, but it's welcome.
Absolutely. Okay, the next thing, the new UI menus in ships and in stations. I love the new UI, specifically in stations with the outfitting and all of that. I think they are absolutely incredible. Again, side note, we were told we were going to get a stream with the UI team last Thursday. Didn't happen. Hopefully we'll get it this coming Thursday, because I think that I would love to see them talk a little bit about some of the ideas and concepts behind what they did. And I would love to hear them talk about maybe to what extent these new UIs are going to be pervasive across to the base game or into other functionalities, including fleet carriers, etc. There are things that we are not getting to see right now that, you know, we kind of want to see what it looks like after the alpha. And then, okay, my last point, and this one, go with me on this because it gets a little, it goes for a bit, but I think it's important to say, and this is with regard to the FPS play. Now, you all know me. I'm not a fan of FPS. Don't like it. It's not my thing. But I will say, while many have criticized the FPS in Odyssey by comparing it to Warzone or Call of Duty or other current FPS top-tier games and criticizing it for sort of being a step behind, that it definitely feels more like it fits in closer with games of a decade ago, like Counter-Strike, Mass Effect, Halo, PlanetSide 2. I would counter that those people that are making that criticism are sort of missing the point. Elite doesn't have to compete with the top tier FPS scale. Its goal is to provide a serviceable on-foot experience to a galaxy simulation game, in that its competition isn't going to be Counter-Strike and Warzone and Call of Duty. Its competition is going to be other galaxy simulation games. So you're talking about Star Citizen, you're talking about No Man's Sky, and to a lesser degree, other games like Dual Universe or whatever that are sort of coming up, and we'll see how they sort of pan out. But the main entrenched, established comparison is going to be to Star Citizen and No Man's Sky. Now, while Star Citizen provides ships interiors that Elite currently lacks, and No Man's Sky provides base building that Elite currently lacks, and they both provide a more interactable planet-side options such as mining, the fact remains that Star Citizen isn't a finished product. No Man's Sky has no flight model to speak of and is cartoony with regard to the graphics. Elite, on the other hand, with its top-notch flight model, its procedurally generated galaxy, and established and polished BGS game engine, Odyssey, I think, more than meets the expectation on the FPS side. I very much hope that the future iterations of download content will expand further on the non-combat on-foot planet-side play, offering more options such as mining, caves, expanded generation of points of interest to help fill out the depths in the expansive galaxy. And just real quick, I'm going to say a quick hello to Enterprise and his 95 people that just rated us. Hello, hello. I hope you guys like what you hear. We do a little news show where we drink heavily and talk about Elite Dangerous and what happened that week. So, yeah, coming back to my point, and Monohive can do a little edit on that for the podcast version, but coming back to my point here, Elite makes the grade when you look at it through that lens. Now, Daniel Radcliffe, no, not the kid who played Harry Potter. There's a programmer that works at Frontier on Elite Dangerous and worked on the combat mechanics named Daniel Radcliffe. He made a tweet and had a whole sort of conversation earlier in the week talking about how a lot of the sort of like mouse mechanics and how they do some of the targeting and whatever, that was inspired by sort of the Quake source engine, and that a lot of the feel and the design of certain combat mechanic choices were specifically like, it wasn't a situation of like, oh, this is old. They went for an aesthetic. They specifically went for it. So for me personally, let's face it, we're not the average Elite Dangerous player isn't your 12-year-old, Twitch gamer. We're sort of a different bunch. And as a result, I think that the choices that they made and how they went about approaching FPS mechanics, I think are better suited to the core audience of Elite Dangerous. And that's just my supposition, but there you have it. Let's start with Tweet.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Kai. I've been saying this from the very beginnings of what we knew about Odyssey, and that I never thought they were trying to steal Call of Duty's or Fortnite's crowd. Never. The FPS gameplay in Elite Dangerous is just an extension of this galaxy, of the story of Elite Dangerous. And it needs to be good enough to do that. And on top of that, I think it is good enough to do that from what I've seen on the streams. And I would add that from what I've seen with the on-the-ground CZs the last couple of days, they look much more in line with what the younger crowd is going to want to be doing and everything, too. I think that looks even better than the regular mission FPS looked like early.
Roy, I know you had a thought on this as well.
Yeah, so I know we're going to touch on this this mission we ran last night in a couple different aspects, but I just wanted to, so basically yesterday we were with the team checking out a scavenging site, and
several of them,
and I'll just say
this. Surprise, they're scavenging sites.
What surprised me was after we landed, did some stuff, which we'll talk about maybe in the next topic. But the point was, as we were finishing up on one of the sites, a vulture shows up and drops off like half a dozen enemy NPCs out of nowhere. And I happened to be on the ground. Kai was in Overwatch in a ship. I think Biotic was with us. Biotic Keen was with us on the ground as well. And all hell broke loose. And it was so much fun. Like suddenly we were surrounded. There was enough terrain that by sort of moving up and down through the moguls, we were able to get cover. Kai was sort of shooting stuff from the ship.
And control
as well. And the thing that really jumped out at me too is I was able to really do some good damage on the ground with the laser weapon. They didn't feel, the ones we were fighting in that interaction, I know people have said in some other interactions, and maybe from phase 1 as well, that some of the enemies seemed a bit bullet spongy, but in that particular interaction, it was like everything came together and it was fun. I mean, I was shooting stuff, they went down after, I don't know, half a dozen shots, and I was able to even jump with the jetpack and take out some people while I was flying around. And it didn't feel like we were. It sort of rode that edge of. And then there was some big explosions happening around us. It rode this edge of feeling dangerous without feeling like we were overwhelmed or something was terribly unbalanced, which I was, that was a very different experience for me compared to, say, the phase 1 experience I'd had. And I came out of that and I was like, holy cow, like that was awesome. And it just all came together. And that for me is one of the, yes, we can look at a lot of different aspects and say this is good, this is bad, and so forth. But there was this sort of je ne sais quoi around that little interaction where it's like I came out of it and was like, I can't quite put my finger on this, but man, that was fun. That was fun. Like, well done.
Hell yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It was parts of it were very, very cool and very, very interesting, and other parts of it we'll talk about later. So, yeah, so I can't enough focus on how big those things are. And for those of you who are about to hear the other list that's coming up here in a moment, just keep in mind all of the love that we just poured out on the things that were good, because we're not trying to take the Latvian approach. We're trying to take a balanced approach and provide constructive criticism that is not meant to be insulting or demeaning or in any way take away from the phenomenal work that Frontier has done on this product. It's merely meant to give our feedback on thoughts on what we would like changed a little bit. So let's finish up with 2 observations before we get to the other list. And the first observation is this. When running around and salvaging in week 1, I was finding tons of different schematics and suit schematics that, okay, you need that to upgrade your suit. I get that. I understand that. I'm down for it. Weapon schematics, similarly, you need that to upgrade your weapon. But there were also 3 other types of schematics that I found intriguing. Vehicle schematics. Now, we've been told that at least at Odyssey Alpha launch, or sorry, at Odyssey launch, excuse me, product launch, there will not be any engineering for SRVs. So, vehicle schematics, question mark? The next one was ship schematics. That one has me intrigued and a little scared, I'm not going to lie. And because, again, we were told that none of the engineering at launch of Odyssey would involve ships. The last one has me super intrigued, and that was building schematics. Now, let's take a moment to sort of set the stage here. With regard to buildings, there were leaks going back before Odyssey was actually officially announced, when it was just the next project. It was the next thing. There was all kinds of sort of references to the fact that it would be either one or both, either one or the other, or both of what they called space legs and base building. Those were the 2 hot things. And Frontier announced not that long before or pretty much right at about the time that they announced Odyssey, they said, base building is not on the roadmap at this time. Now, that doesn't mean that it was never on the roadmap. It could be that, obviously they've had delays with regard to this product. It could be that that was one of the things that got cut to make things go. Could be that they never had it planned at all. Could be that they had it planned, but then for some reason in a design meeting or whatever, they decided to move it to another place, and it's not on the publicly disclosed roadmap. It's somewhere else. But there were intriguing things that were found in the ARC store, where there was a listing to, like, you could get customizations for your buildings and whatever. So there's plenty for us to believe that maybe at one time base building was thought that it was going to be a part of Odyssey. And if that's the case, and maybe at one time other SRVs were supposed to be part of Odyssey launch, but that got pushed back. Maybe they were going to do other stuff with ships. Who knows? But there's good reason to believe that maybe at one point in the early design steps of this, schematics were envisioned for buildings and ships and vehicles, but that got sort of back. They just didn't remove the assets that still sort of populate a data table somewhere and are still things. I find that super, super interesting. And the ship part, I find it a little scary. Please, let's not add ship engine. Well, whatever. Roy.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's latitude here for this to be a nothing burger or to be a super awesome thing or even a questionable thing. I have sort of two minds on this. One is we don't know if there was a crunch coming up to this alpha that resulted in things being, or how many things being dropped off the list of features they might launch with. And maybe the second one is we don't know what they're holding back either. I mean, I'm hoping they've got some stuff they're going to surprise us with at launch that maybe they felt was they could test it, you know, in other ways by looking at other features if it was analogous to some other features, and they can pleasantly surprise us with some things when launch hits. Let's see.
Tell me the truth. Are you dreaming of that Scorpion?
I thought that was pretty cool, the Scorpion. I'm also interested to know what the building schematic might be for. That one's got me intrigued as well.
Okay. Another observation. The mission board. There's a new section for Thargoid missions that was added to the in-station mission board. I found that very, very intriguing. Yeah. Tweaked.
Yeah, I just watching these streams, that's one thing that really stood out to me was the new UI on the mission board. It looks a lot more similar to our fleet carrier UI. And the mission board, the way they separate Thargoid missions and passenger missions and all the different types, I love that. I really do. I mean, yeah, you got to click a couple more buttons, but it keeps everything nice and tidy. I can't wait.
Yeah. All right. So does anybody have anything that they want to add onto the good side of the list before we move on? Just speak up.
It's good we're not in the Attidian system anymore.
Oh, Jesus. Yes.
I would say really the being able to walk around your ships now, the Sidewinder, the Cobra, look at the size difference, the proportion, the scale of everything, and how good they got it right. One thing I haven't seen anybody test yet, though, and I want to see this, is I want to see, Kai, I want to see you standing in the station, and I want to see you watch Roy come through the mail slot. I want to see that happen to know that works.
Yeah.
One other thing I'd add to the good column, and I think we inadvertently tested this last night. I know they promised it. I know it was expected. I just wanted to see it happen, which is have physical multi-crew with being in a wing and have it actually work well. And last night we were in we did physical multi-crew, we got in a wing, and Kontrolldon at one point went into somebody else's ship that he hadn't arrived on. So I felt like that kind of covered all the bases for me for that feature. So I'm pleasantly satisfied that worked.
Yeah. I noticed that as well, that when we were in a wing together, it defaults to, yes, let the other people on your ship. You have to actually click on it and tell them no bar access to my ship. Maybe there's somewhere an overall thing where you can toggle that to say no, default to no. But I like that. It was interesting. All right, guys, we're switching over to the bad/missing/ugly list. And again, I'm going to preface this by saying, you heard all the love we just poured out on this. We're pointing these things out because we want them fixed. This is not mocking or hatred or whatever. So right off the bat, let's start off with the bad. Scavenging. It seems super gutted to me. Last night when we did that gameplay, the parts of us doing the combat to drive off / kill all of the looters who were trying to loot our loot before we looted it, that was fun and exciting and interesting in a group. With regard to the actual scavenging bit, when it was first mentioned, they made it sound like it was going to be sort of like you go to a wreck of a ship, and kind of like that scene from the beginning of that Star Wars movie where the little girl goes in there, she's wearing that suit and you can't tell she's a pretty girl. She's like digging through all the stuff and ripping out chunks of the ship or whatever. I thought like there's going to be mini games where we're like cutting open panels and then, oh, there's this piece that you can take out, but kind of like some mini game like they showed with that plant gun thing where it's like you have to line things up right to like remove the materials without damaging them, or there's a special lock, or there's something dangerous, or if you get this wrong it'll explode or something. What it turned out to be was shoot the guys, that part's fun. Get to the SRV, there's a box right next to the SRV. You pop open the box, wasn't even locked, and then you take the stuff from it. There's 2 panels on the back of the SRV. You take your little laser saw, zoop, zoop, zoop. You cut open the panels, and inside there's 3 pieces. You grab them, you walk away. Very underwhelming. Now, I should point out, this is tier 0. This is initial implementation in alpha of this. There's a possibility that more stuff will be coming. If it doesn't come during alpha and initial launch, there's a possibility that they could do more stuff with it 6 months from now, a year from now. Mining, when it first came out, was just, hey, here's laser mining, knock yourself out. Then they added core mining in the future. So I have hopes that in the future that becomes more interesting. But scavenging tier 0, as we saw it implemented on multiple different rec sites last night, was less than exciting, tweaked.
Yeah, I don't disagree that it might have been a little underwhelming, and I get what you're saying where you want a mini game, but I would contend that finding it, killing the guys, killing the rest of the guys that dropped in on you, cutting open the back panels, that was the mini game. And it might be underwhelming for you that has access to all this. I would love to have those instances right now for me to be able to go do. Absolutely love it. So yeah, hopefully they get better down the line, but I still say they're better than they could be.
All right, Roy.
One question I would have, and maybe you know this from having seen how other interactions are explained, but I'm curious because we went to a number of different threat sites, and you had gone to one. I think maybe Biotic was with you before the rest of us got there. I'm curious if they scale based on like who's in the wing or how many people, or like where the different dimensions are it can scale upon, because that tier 0 or tier 1 threat would have been pretty difficult solo.
Yeah, that would have been.
I'm not sure, so that could have, like, to what I said before about it was super exciting and the combat was fun and things were blowing up all over the place and it felt balanced. If that scales with how many people you're there with, or if you're there solo, that'd be awesome. If I had done that solo and then all those people showed up, 6 people falling out of a vulture, that might not have been so fun.
Yeah, interestingly enough, the very first one was a tier 3 threat. I showed up to it by myself and there were 2 people. The very next one was a tier 1 threat that we showed up to. We rocked in with 4 people, and it was 2 or 3 people on the base, and then like 6 or 7 got dropped off. So maybe there was some dynamic scaling for the amount of people that we had there. And if so, that's awesome. I salute that. Okay. The next point is game balance. We've showed you the video last week of punching an anaconda to death. The video this week has gone around of a guy basically killing a Cobra ship with on foot with his pistol. These are just oof. These are just major oof. I get that the new game director, product manager, is an FPS guy. He was brought in with a focus on let's get this FPS nailed right, and I 100% accept that. However, let's not lose the balance. There's no way you should be able to punch an anaconda to death. There's no way a guy with a pistol should be able to shoot down a very, very big, compared to him, heavily armored ship. There's, even you look at the smallest lasers that you can put on a Sidewinder, and they're way, way bigger than any rifle that you're holding. So like let's look at that balancing before we drop this product, please, guys. Okay, Roy.
Just quick, I two things that I think really tell me the jury's still out on this. One is the videos we referenced earlier in the show about SRVs just destroying CZs of people on foot. From the things we did last night, I think it might have been Biotic who was getting shot by like a couple of guys with lasers on the ground, and it was tearing up the shields on his ship. Like there's definitely some things where I'm really curious to see where this is going to land, because at the moment it seems heavily weighted towards both the on foot and the SRV.
Yep. All right. So the next point, every station layout being the same as the others of that type is okay. Okay, I get, at least for tier 1 implementation or tier 0 implementation, I get that. But the stations need a little more flair to differentiate them. And for God's sake, let's randomize a little bit some of these NPCs. In this current alpha implementation, it's okay, it's acceptable, but I pray to God that when this launches and going forward, every station in the galaxy doesn't have the exact same kid from the movie Powder sleeping on the exact same bench. That's just a little underwhelming. So I hope that going forward, there is some just some attention paid to that, a little randomization, a little spice it up a little bit so that it doesn't have the same feel. I get that they all sort of feel like an airport, and that's by design, and they should, because it's the functionality of how that works. In real life, you go to O'Hare, you go to JFK, you go to Heathrow, you go to, you know, all of these different places. They all kind of feel the same because it's got that functionality, but they all have little differences. And I get that Frontier said, hey, we're going to have little differences in ours. I think they need to dial that up just a little bit. The next issue, UI controls. They're still janky. Despite properly mapping my keys, because I use for FPS play, for ship play, I use my dual Virpils. For FPS play, I like to use my Xbox controller. It's very comfortable. It's very, you know, it's just good for FPS type moving around for me. Despite the fact that I have it all properly mapped out and I have verified it repeatedly, the keybinds are listed correctly, I still have to either use one of my triggers to select UI from one of my HOTAS, or hit the spacebar to select and the escape on the keyboard to get out of menus, because it just refuses to read my keybinds, even though it shows them as select UI and escape from UI panel on the correct on the Xbox controller. It just doesn't read them that way, and I've heard that from many other people. They're having the exact same issue. In addition to that, there's things, as we talked about last week, where, you know, they have these radials that are more geared towards controller players, but are not great for mouse and keyboard players. And this is just not acceptable. The keybinds for all essential functions, including your battery pack, your medical pack, having those only be on the janky scroll wheel is just not acceptable to keyboard and mouse players. Frontier needs to add all of the keybinds from both of those scroll wheels into the options, and then players can choose to either keybind it or use the radial. That's the way to do it. The way to do it is not to attack console players for something they had nothing to do with. It's to expect Frontier to properly give you key mapping. All right. Next, we've got, just add some mini cutscene, 3 seconds for climbing up a ladder for shipboarding. It literally, they had that in Elite Horizons. You know, it was basically the same fade to black when you got on your ship from an SRV, or when you got on your SRV from your ship, or got in your SLF from your ship. But they put in a 3-second cutscene that just sort of showed your little SRV getting picked up by the claw and sucked into the machine, or being deployed, or your little SLF shooting out or going in. It's 3 seconds of cutscene. That's all you need. Reduced mission. Let's see here. Yeah, they reduced the mission timer for some reason on, and maybe this is just because it's for the alpha that they want people to sort of push through to get to the end, in which case, no problem. That's fine. It's weird, but okay. But I've noticed that the missions in alpha are reduced to like 6-hour timer, whereas all of your missions in elite, at the shortest missions you'll get are 18 to 24 hours. It's like, oh, it just makes it a little, it's like this, that's a bad choice. Make it, you have it, just set it to what the current settings are for those missions, the analogous missions, and leave it there. Again, a lot of us elite players, you're talking about dads, you're talking about adults with things that come up. And, you know, if a guy suddenly, you know, his kid is crying and he's got to go deal with whatever the hell just happened in the other room, and then the wife calls and says, hey, I'm going to be late. Can you do me a favor and take the stuff out and start on the dinner, and then got to help Johnny with homework or whatever. It might be that you're not getting back to that until after the kids are put in bed, in which case, like, that 6-hour timer, it's just a killer. There's no reason for it. All right. Now, the next thing is the threat levels on the missions are sometimes inaccurate and no distance to the location. I think they've done multiple hot fixes to try to address this, so hopefully this is better now. But when you get a thing that it says it's a threat level 0 mission, you show up and there's a bunch of people out there to kill you, that's not bueno. And you definitely want distances to all your locations. Travel time for on-foot missions. Now, this was a big thing that was talked about last week. And in last week, you know, the PC Gamer article and all of the content creators and everybody, they had their spin on it. And it was like, you know, make the taxi go faster. And there's the other side of it where it's like, no, don't make the taxi go faster. You're breaking the rules for travel in this universe. Let's keep things consistent. Let's keep things, you know, fair. And I agree with that 100%, except here's the thing. You don't need to make the taxis go faster. You don't need to break the rules of the universe at all. Just make it to where when you go to a planet and you're okay, I'm over here and I'm getting the mission board, make the missions for the closest planets around it. Make the mission board set up when you're doing the on-foot missions. It's different when you're doing ship missions. There you want to fly. But when you're doing the on-foot missions, if I'm at the A star and there's 8 settlements around me, there's 8 planets with settlements around me, why the hell is the mission board giving me a mission to the C star 9th planet that's 40 minutes away? Just make it to where you don't have to break any of the laws of the universe to say, hey man, this right here is an on-foot mission, so it's going to take you to this settlement that's 4 minutes away. Roy.
Well, yeah, and I think one of the things that was mentioned before that would, and obviously pair with this, is not just being able to filter for distance, but sort for distance. But why not also, if it really is that egregious, maybe the reward should, like there's a risk reward, or I don't know, maybe what would you call it, brain damage / reward equation here, where you could make it worth someone's time to take that long of a trip if you make the mission worth it. And if you're making someone fly across the system, if it really was supposed to be sort of driven by supply and demand, that could be something they put in there that people might not complain about riding in the taxi that long, or even just flying that long, if it's worth it for the reward.
Yeah, okay, for sure. If you're going to increase payouts just the same way as the mission to Hutton, if you're going to increase the payout, then sure, I will set it and forget it. I'll put my guy in the taxi for 30 minutes and then put on an episode of, you know, For All Mankind. Okay, that's fair. All right, so that takes us to the next point, which is failing missions on death, even post-success. This is just bad. So look, if I take 4 missions and I complete 3 of them, I have successfully done all of the things that the mission giver wanted me to do. And then I go to the 4th mission and shit goes sideways and I fall in combat. Those 3 missions that I've already completely succeeded at should not switch to failure. Those should just be, those are locked as succeeded missions. The 4th mission that I just failed at, I honestly think for gameplay purposes, for you know, fun, for engagement, for not ball aching us when we're like, we pay money to play your game. How about you restart me on the pad and say, now I have a 10% penalty or whatever because I didn't get a clean success, or a 30% penalty, or a something. You just say, hey man, you're not gonna get as much because yes, you want to definitely have some penalty, some whatever to losing, but don't make it hurt that much. Don't make me want to log off in rage. Make me just go, ah, crap, I got to do better. That's, I think, a more fun way to approach a game. The next one, this one's a doozy. And again, you know that I'm not a big FPS guy. This is not my thing. But if you're going to do FPS and you're going to say that our FPS was not made sort of twitchy, whatever, our FPS was made more cerebral, more tactical, with real stealth mechanics involved that are like, they're key to this, well, then you have to actually put in real stealth mechanics. So here's a couple things. If I show up and I do a soft kill or a quiet kill on a guard, right? I should be able to drag his body into a closet somewhere, or at least just behind a box, or I don't know, throw something over him. Just in some way, hide the fact that that's there, because if the next pather comes by, if a patrol guy comes by and sees that dead body, he's immediately on full alert. Like, that's how stealth mechanics work. You should put those in. Why is there no clear indicator of detection range? If I see a guy, he's at a certain distance or whatever, it literally just, it's all sort of a guessing game. And when you talk about stealth mechanics, that is a key stealth mechanic. You kind of get an area on the mini map that you see that it's like, okay, this is this guy's detection range. I got to stay out of that. I have to, you know, I don't know. It's just, there should be that. Also, why is there no audio or visual stealth-based feedback? In other games that have stealth mechanics, one of the key components to that is, you know, if you're moving fast, you're making more noise, whereas if you move slow, whatever. And when you violate your stealth, when you're breaking stealth, i.e. you move where a spotlight sees you, or you move too fast and you're making noise, or you're not crouched or whatever, you get some feedback. You'll see a little, like a red flash on the screen, or you hear like a little sound or something that kind of lets you know, like, hey, you're screwing up. Like, get back into stealth, do it right. Why is there no process where an NPC goes from sort of unaware to suspicious, then alert, then aggro? They literally switch right from, I've got no clue about anything. Oh, I'm coming after you. You're dead. And once you're spotted, every hostile on the map immediately aggros, and they all magically know where you are. They see through walls, they lock onto you, and the only way that you can break that auto lock, it's not lose line of sight, change your angle, stop, be quiet, whatever. It's literally just sprint full pace in one direction until you get far enough away that their AI twitches and they tweak back into just sort of a suspicious patrol. But like, it's broken that you have to cheese it to get to that point. There should be other ways to get to that point, and there should be warnings before you escalate through that. And basically all of this just leads to the rooftop cheese sort of mechanic of like, you know, okay, I jump from roof to roof, I cheese it, I achieve my objective, and I move on. Roy.
So one thing I'd be curious to get your thoughts on, given how much you know about the lore of this, is I think back to the what we've been told about, for example, why you get fines and bounties when you're in a ship is because your ship is literally controlled by the Pilots Federation. It's kind of like it's your ship that's reporting you that you just did this thing. I'm wondering if that paradigm has been sort of pasted onto the on foot play to where, like, is it our suits that are reporting us? And so that's one thing. Like, is that really the lore explanation for why some of these things happen? With
Let me counter that thought. Let me counter that thought with, right now, if you take certain kill missions, they sort of tell you, oh, this is disabled for the extent of this mission while you're whatever. Like, you know?
Meaning the tag.
Your ship telling on you. Yeah, for killing.
I mean, it's one of those things where there's probably a list of things that they said we're going to take loops and play styles and methods from the ship and put them on the suit, because the suit is now your ship. And some of those are good, and some of them just end up maybe not being fun. And the second thing I'd say that I'm curious about the stealth is, you know, there was talk in past weeks about, you know, they can't really do a non-lethal attack because of the PEGI rating and all that. I'm wondering if they held back on really fleshing out a lot of stealth mechanics, not even knowing if we'd be able to disable someone or not because of that issue.
Maybe. They did end up landing on the fact that we can do it. So we can. So yeah, but I get what you're saying is maybe they didn't know, and as a result, design sort of philosophy where they were like, okay, we're going to put this lower on the whatever, and it's something to be added. This is tier 0. Keep in mind, folks, this is alpha. We are, you know, working on this, and maybe they're asking for feedback.
To jump into something on the chat here, because some people maybe weren't familiar with this issue. You can do non-lethal attacks now. We thought in the past you couldn't because of the PEGI rating, but we saw even in a stream, it's been demonstrated multiple times now, you can use the overcharge on that one
energy link,
the energy link tool to knock someone out. So we're past that, and yeah, the point is, does that now open up more things they could do now that that's not going to be a problem to do that in game?
Right. Tweaked, your thoughts on the whole stealth thing?
Yes, I'm surprised when they were talking about this, they were very high on the tactical. You're gonna have to make plans with your guys. You can go in stealthily and sneak in. That doesn't seem to be the case. Like you said, if one guy sees you, everybody in the base knows where you are. That's not stealth. That's kind of weird. And there's been many games throughout time where you've been able to drag the dead body and hide them out of sight. Red Dead Redemption, all the way back to Metal Gear Solid, you used to do that. Kill them, knock them out, and then hide them behind the bushes or behind the boxes. And it was just added dimension to this game that I feel like is needed to do something, especially if you're going to try to do these missions solo. I think that would be very beneficial.
Yeah. In addition to this and linked to this, because it kind of touches upon stealth in a way, it feels very bad right now when you're fighting people in the settlements. It feels very, very bullet spongy. It's very, very slow to kill. It's a grind fight that takes a lot of the tactics out of it. There's a lot of games that are more tactical, that are more stealth, whatever, that, you know, you can sort of make a one-shot headshot with a suppressed rifle and boom, now you've got a quiet kill. Then you go and move that body and you kind of keep moving. Whereas in this, that's not really an option. I agree with you, Roy, that it did very much more so feel when we did that scavenging, that it felt a little more, I say the NPCs there felt just differently balanced. But in the settlements, it does not feel that way. It is a slog, and it's going to be a long and loud gunfight to get rid of one guy, and that just throws the whole concept of stealth right out the window. I'm going to make an observation. The on-foot mode, standing on top of a ship, you die the second the ship gets 2 feet off the ground. Obviously, I think this is a wall to prevent EVAs, which they hilariously facilitated with their broken elevator. But yeah, I'm wondering, what about if you're in an SRV? I mean, obviously, it used to be you could take the SRV, go right on top of a ship. Does that just, it doesn't kill you, but you now lose the ability to exit that SRV because it says, like, just no, you can't here? I find that sort of interesting, and I wonder where that's going to go. Another observation, they said this is a 6-week, 4-phase alpha. It started on March 29th, and if you look on the fine print on that video that they released on Thursday, it's going to end on April 30th. So it's not a 6-week alpha. It's a month-long alpha. It's a month and a day. Roy, you had a thing on the ship stuff?
Yeah, just the whole thing about not wanting us to do an EVA. I mean, I get it, but some of the most fun times that I've had with large groups of players at an event or on a trip expedition or whatever is when everyone's goofing around. Like, we're not pretending to play the game properly. It's, let's see how high we can make an SRV go by flipping it off this ship, or start attacking each other. Like, there's this goofy times that are enabled by having little weird loops in the physics of the game. And I feel like they've, by not letting us have a person ride the ship, it's kind of really sucked some fun out that could have been pretty innocent. And I don't know that people would have, I can't really see an exploit there that would have terribly unbalanced the game. It just was, it could have been a really fun thing.
I think that was just about putting a wall between on foot and space. Like, they don't want EVA right now. They haven't got that worked out, as evidenced by the people who have EVA'd by accident by falling through the elevators, and literally you can't move, you can't do anything other than just turn on your flashlight so you can run down the battery quicker so that you can die, so that you can respawn. That's the only thing that you can apparently do. Can't pull out tools, you can't move, nothing. So
we could still have fun with that, just saying.
Yeah, so that is a thing. And with regard to the next sort of section is missing stuff, hacking. Okay, I know e-breachers are now in the game as of phase 2. So as of yesterday, e-breachers are now in the game. They cost like, what, 20 grand, 30 grand for one. And they work as was demonstrated on that video a while back where they were like, hey, look at us, we're ninjas. But I haven't seen anything hacking. Have you guys, either of you, seen any hacking play anywhere on any streams?
No.
Not a bit. Nope.
It seems like another... Like, we're at the point now where we have e-breachers, we have the panel cutters. There's not, the only suit that we don't have is the exploration suit. I don't think hacking is tied to that. We should have, there's nothing stopping us from having access to the hacking play right now, except for the fact that it's missing. Just the same way as that the scavenging that was so talked up turned out to be sort of a dud. Like, I feel like, did it get gutted entirely? Is it gone? Is it now hacking is just the e-breach?
I hope this isn't what it is, but I mean, it's a real stretch, but the fact that you can use your link tool to power up a dead panel and then use that panel to get the code for a box, that's like a real stretch, but that's
no, because
I don't know.
In that one video that they did, in the Secret Squirrel video, they literally said when they came to the panel that works the power station, they said right here is where you would hack this panel, but we're going to use an e-breacher. So there was at least conceptual a gameplay loop that we have not seen and has not been accounted for. I would like to know what happened there. Also, with regard to stuff that's missing, a tutorial. Now, I'm going to actually soften my previous stance on this and cut them some slack. Maybe they're like, hey, there's so many aspects of the game that are up in the air that we're going to lock down the tutorial after we finish doing this. This whole thing feels very sort of, they are working up to the wire. If they drop phase 3 on a Wednesday, they're still programming that shit on Tuesday night. Like, it is very, very fly by the seat of your pants and let's hope for the best. So, okay, fine. Also missing is when this entire process was first talked about years ago, there was a very strong emphasis on the concept of increasing the instancing and a significant refresh of the underlying code base, and that this was going to allow for more players with players, more players against players, more player interaction, more robust, everything. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I've noticed they just stopped talking about that at some point. And now, granted, it's an alpha, but I think we can attest, Roy, in last night when the four of us were trying to do stuff together, it was every 15, 20 minutes somebody was crashing. We crashed multiple times just trying to get a wing together.
That's true.
So I'm a little like, hey man, can somebody talk to us about what happened with that? Can we look into that? Missing CQC FPS. Art a long time ago was saying, are we going to have CQC on foot? Yes, we're not talking about that right now, but yes, we are. Is it a chance that he meant conflict zones on foot? Because I wouldn't consider a conflict zone the same as CQC. They're two vastly different things. They provide lots of different experiences and they have lots of different reward structures and functionality, and one of them you're dying and you're losing your shit. The other is you're dying and it's just funny money. It's nothing against you, nothing whatever. Roy.
Are those differences enough to warrant the different mode? I mean, I know you lose your stuff and maybe you have a rebuy, the equivalent of a rebuy, but in the economy that the game is right now, I mean, a rebuy on a ship, once you get past a certain point, isn't really a deterrent. So is it enough to want? Would people play a CQC for FPS mode as opposed to what is shaping up to be, from what I can tell, a really exciting, real in-game, the Frontline Solutions mode?
That depends. That depends a lot on how robust Frontlines is, because if Frontlines is, I mean, right now Frontlines is the big hurrah because it dropped yesterday, but 6 months from now, if you're in a position where, okay, that's CZs all over the galaxy, it's too spread out, it's too diffuse, it's too whatever. The idea of CQC is it puts, in a galaxy that can sometimes feel empty, it puts people in a bottleneck where you get to fight each other. Is that going to be a viable whatever? And the point you're kind of, what you're saying is kind of like, do we really need the other thing? And that's not the point. The point is he said we were going to get it. If you say we're going to get it, you kind of have to deliver or explain that. Tweet.
Yeah, I think, and I've said in the past, I'm not a huge CQC fan, but to Roy's statement, I think there's two significant differences between what we see with Frontline Solutions and what a CQC should or would be. One, as Osasha says in the chat, CQC is mostly PvP. When you go in now, you're not going against PvE, you're going against other players. And that would be the same for on the foot. And to my line of thinking, CQC would not affect any BGS. I personally don't really look forward to a bunch of non-real elite players that don't understand much of the game other than the FPS part coming to OPIC space and going to Frontline Solutions and going down and doing our BGS on the ground, because they might hurt us more than they help us, really. So for the crowd that wants that kind of thing, CQC could really facilitate that to them.
Right. Okay. So now let's go to, before we switch to the last category, which is the ugly, which has 2 big points on it. Let's switch to another observation, another, this isn't necessarily a negative thing, but this is something that I think is kind of negative and others may not care or may strongly agree, whatever. The drop ships in these frontline solution things are vultures. Is it just me that seems like a drop ship might be, I don't know, a drop ship? If you're talking about a Federation group, if you're talking about that English gent did a thing, he put it on Reddit, and it was good, where his post was like, hey, look, for Federation ships, if you want to have a drop ship, use a drop ship. For Empire ships, use a clipper. For Alliance ships, use a chieftain. For independent ships, use a keelback or something. Like, have distinctive ships that sort of match the lore. The entire, let's be honest, maybe I'm dead wrong, but I mean, the Federal assault ship is the star of that trio. The FAS has got some actual sort of purpose to it. The dropship just seems entirely meh as a ship. But if you put in a special thing where it's like, hey, this is the ship that has some special capability with regard to that, and we're showing it off by using it to drop, troops in for it just seems to me good for lore, good for the game. Even if you wanted to just be lazy with it and say, we're going to use the dropship for everything, and then just say, hey man, there's other factions they've stolen in this is, we looted this in the war, blah blah blah. We did that with the Nazis. We stole after we beat them. Well, after whatever, the whole world beat them, whatever. We stole all their rockets and we started launching them until the Navy started making their own. We literally were using their rockets for testing. Like, there's nothing to say if you wanted to be super lazy about it that you couldn't just have the dropship be the dropship or whatever. But like, I kind of like the idea of each group having their own unique, Roy.
Yeah. So my thoughts on this changed like 180 degrees from when I was thinking about it sort of abstractly to when I saw the Burr video coverage of frontline solutions and multiple vultures coming in. I think in this case, size matters. I think it's an unfortunate coincidence that the federal dropship just happens to be named a dropship, and now we have a game mode that's begging for a dropship. That vulture, compared to what it's dropping into, is very large, and it doesn't. Again, it's sort of semantics that we have a different ship called the dropship, but I could see where having medium ships fly in once every 5 minutes to drop off 6 people starts to seem a bit off, just in terms of like, why would somebody be using that resource to do that job, given the size? And I'm still coming to grips with the size of these ships. Now, even in the last 48 hours, haven't been able to see a bunch of different ships that I'm much more familiar with than I was the Adder. And yeah, that's sort of landing on me now. That and I think Stuart GT in the chat here had a good point that, the vulture. Yes, the normal, the in-game use that we've used the vulture for right now seems completely different than what it's being used for now. But maybe FDev will introduce superpower-specific small ships for use as drop ships at some point. I think this is a great argument for why we need more ships. Just put that one on the pile as well.
Okay, I agree wholeheartedly.
So,
all right.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so now let's get the last 2 points, which are the ugly. Here we go. The first, wait, Tweet, did you have a point on that thing, or was that before already addressed?
No, that was before.
Okay,
good.
Sorry. All right,
you guys have said it all.
So the last 2 points, the ugly. Here comes a doozy. Grindception. Look, I don't think a lot of people have thought this through yet and put it together, but the fact of the matter is this. We are going to grind harder than we have ever grinded before when we get to these upgrading and engineering our stuff, because as it stands now, you buy a ship for a small amount of money. You spend a larger amount of money to upgrade it to A-rate it and D-rate it. Everything that needs to be A-rated gets A-rated, everything D, etc. and then you start the engineering process. As it stands with the suits and the guns and all of this stuff, you're going to have to basically, quote unquote, engineer your each suit, each gun, each thing, just to A-rate it, just to do the upgrading process at the store. It no longer costs credits. It now costs widgets that are going to take your time. When you upgrade your suit to level 5, now you have, through that process, unlocked all of these engineering component module spaces that then need to be individually engineered. So at a minimum, you're looking at already more than doubling the time that you spend to engineer stuff for each piece. In addition to this, Frontier has already told us that they're going with a design philosophy of saying you can only put an engineered thing in one weapon. Let's say you have a scope. You put that scope on that weapon. That scope is now fused on to that weapon. We've somehow forgotten how Picatinny rails work, and that scope is on that weapon for forever. So now, instead of saying, I'm going to engineer this gun to be a really good gun, and I have an awesome scope that I'll use for certain missions for at a distance kill, and I'll have an awesome suppressor that I'll use for certain missions for, stealth kills, and I'll have an awesome, increased mag capacity and firing rate that I'll use for a run and gun, a come in hot and heavy, breach the door, kick it open, and guess what, brother, we're dropping you. Now you have to engineer that same gun 3 times so that you have one that has the scope, one that has the suppressor, one that has the run and gun capability. When you add that to the fact that each of those guns took you twice as long to engineer because you have to engineer it to upgrade it and engineer it to engineer it, you're talking about stupid levels of grinding for this crap. And it is just way too far. I think Frontier can fix this, and they need to. Tweaked.
Yeah, I agree. They can fix that. But one point to what you were just saying is you're basically, if I'm understanding what you were just saying, kind of wanting to be able to swap modules on your gun.
100%. You could do that already with your ships.
Yeah,
Why would I not be able to take a scope off my gun?
I agree. You can, but you shouldn't. I hate swapping modules on my ships. I build each and every ship for a particular purpose. I would 100% do the same thing for my weapon. Guaranteed.
I would too, except for the fact that upgrading, like I said, engineering each of your weapons is basically double the process of engineering your ship. Then I would start to think a little more carefully of, well, since you can bring all the crap with you and you have it all in your, it's different than ships. Ships, you now have to get your stuff to where you're at. If you're talking about a gun that has a scope, a suppressor, and increased mag capacity, all 3 of those are in your locker on your ship. You have it with you everywhere you go. Yes, I do engineer my ships bespoke, but I would not do that for a gun for exactly the reason I just explained. Any comeback on that?
Nope, I think that's a matter of personal preference. I don't disagree that, I mean, a lot of people, new players in this game, think credits are the main commodity. I contend that engineering materials are the main commodity, but one of my best friends in this game, Juicy Jams, has a saying, and I think he's 100% correct, that time is the real commodity in Elite Dangerous, and it sounds like engineering these weapons and suits is going to take a lot more of our time.
Yep. Roy?
I think I don't disagree with any of that. I think the modifier to all this is going to be what they've casually mentioned a few times, but it's going to depend on how much they lean into it, which is how far upgraded of a suit or weapon can you buy. They've hinted that there's going to be some at certain stations that have a higher level. In an extreme, that could turn into almost like buying an A-rated thing. We'll just have to see how they choose to balance that.
So basically what you're saying, though, is we would be swapping the process of A-rating your module, where you go to Inara, you look up, okay, A-rated modules are in, you know, there's going to be one within a jump from you. Now it's going to be a matter of hunting the galaxy to find, because they said also that those top ones, they're going to be super expensive, they're going to be hard to find, and it's going to change. It's going to be super rare, and it's going to change every week.
Yep.
So that's going to be a ball ache.
So that's your new mini game for purchasing suits and guns.
That does not sound fun to me. All right. The next point is, this is the last ugly, and this is a lot of the things that we've talked about tonight and over the course of discussing Odyssey. To me, I have a problem with them because they're stepping away from the strong scientific and lore consistent basis that made Elite a spectacular standout in a sea of bad retcon filled games out there. So let's look at some of the things in Odyssey Alpha that we see that it's like, oh, come on. Number one, 0G outpost stations art assets. Like, there's no gravity. They made a big point of it. In the Kickstarter, David Braben said, "Hey, we're not going to do that. We're going to be serious. We're going to be thoughtful. We're going to be a cut above, and we're going to say that these stations have artificial gravities through the Coriolis effect, and these little stations, they have no gravity. You use mag boots, and there's reasons why you want no gravity, maybe for some of the smaller, more functional places, because there's like, hey, because as a guy who, if I'm dealing in 0G and I'm a dock loader or whatever, I can manually move a ton of stuff by, you know, just while I have grav boots on, exerting some force. And if it has 0 gravity, I can move that item, yada, yada, yada. And yes, you're still going to be using machinery, but it's way easier. With a much smaller machine, you could do much more. But when you go to a 0G outpost and you see that everyone's sitting there with open drinks at the bar, not the little squeezy pouches that you see in NASA footage or on The Expanse. When you see that, you know, there's just stuff sitting down, laying every which where, that's just lazy. Low G on foot movement. Now this one is hard because part of me says, okay, for the purpose of gameplay, let this one go. And I would respect Frontier if they came out and said, hey, we're going to do that. We're going to let this one go because it gets in the way of good gameplay. So we're going to just sort of say, hey, you've got a booster pack and it's kind of firing a little bit to kind of push you down. But if they don't address it in some way, here's what you basically got. You have people running around on a 0.01G planet, and it looks exactly the same as a 1G planet. Now, if you look at people on the moon, when you look back to those old, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin and whatever, they're kind of doing that hoppy back and forth. They look almost like a drunk toddler. They kind of like bounce back to the left and to the right, and their jumps, their steps are all kind of little leaps, and they're kind of skipping side to side. It's because even at 0.6G, even at more than half of a G, movement is entirely different. So when you say we're going to have all over the planets and all whatever, we're just going to ignore that, and you don't put in any sort of in-game lore explanation of we've got special, little thrusters that are kind of firing down on your suit or whatever to give you traction, or I don't know, it's just something. That one is like, oof, that's a slip. The sloppy ship transition. They didn't even bother to put in a cutscene. They have that for the SRV and the SLF. We covered it. No sign of atmospheric entry and flight. There's no brief meteoric flame that would sort of surround your ship with extra turbulence. There's no signs of the ship handling any differently in atmosphere at all. Now, this is alpha, and they've said, well, we still got some stuff to put in. So maybe that's one of the things that they're still working on behind the scenes and isn't ready yet, in which case, okay, I 100% am willing to cut them slack on that one. But if it drops at launch, and this is what it is, I mean, we've seen real footage of, you know, NASA flights and reentry. We've seen in every movie, everybody knows, Buck Rogers in the 1980s. You come down, you hit the atmosphere, everything, there's like flames everywhere. It fires up all around you. And you know, you come in at your approach and you're shaking and you're rattling. We all know what it looks like. We're spaceship flying gamer nerds. We want that. I want that. I don't know. Maybe I'm alone, but I want that. And lastly, Kontrolldon, go ahead and pull up the picture for this one. Last night when we were doing our scavenging mission and running around just testing it out and stuff, I shot a guy at a scavenge wreck site hundreds of miles away from any building or installation. So number one, he had no vehicle. Like, okay, how did he even get there? Okay, maybe he was dropped in and they were just like, yeah, we're going to drop you and then take off. Screw you. But number two, he had no helmet. He's wearing a Drew Wagar fedora. He looks like Drew Wagar in the picture there. He's not wearing a helmet. We're on a planet with no breathable air. We're told specifically that the mechanics are such that if my suit runs out of power, I've got a very limited amount of oxygen supply, and after that, I will die because you need air to breathe. And I shot a guy in a fedora on a fucking moon. I'm sorry, but like, Frontier, fix your shit. That's embarrassing, man. That's embarrassing. That hurts my heart. That hurts my heart. Roy, Tweaked, hop in on any of this that you want to comment on.
I think I mean, you've pointed out a range of things, and I'm having a side chat here with the group in chat about like, where do you, if I was to summarize, where do you draw the line on all the different things that they promised all the way back to Kickstarter compared to what is their vision of what's on brand for this game or not? Because like you've pointed out, some of these things are really immersion breaking. Some of them you could kind of put up with because it makes the game more fun in other ways. But I think maybe the first step is for them to acknowledge these and say what their position is on these. And we might get that post alpha, maybe not, but I don't know. There's a whole range here, and instead of us having to guess whether they think it's on brand or not, I think the first point would be for them to acknowledge them.
Tweaked, you have anything you want to add to this?
Yeah, you covered it all pretty well, and I've been on record as saying change the lore a little bit for some of it, but it's one or the other. You either, and this one with the Drew Wagar clone out here on the moon, there's no excuse for that. That's just lazy. Don't get me wrong. I would love to see NPCs that I can shoot that have different looks like that, but it has to be in the right atmosphere, the right scenario where it makes sense. Mm-hmm. And as far as the pizza boxes laying around the tin can stations and all that kind of stuff, it looks cool, but either fix the art to go with the lore or fix the lore to go with the art. You can't leave it as it is. And if it was only one of these things, you'd almost be able to excuse it. But when you see one after another, after another, after another, it starts to be a trend, and it's a little concerning.
All right. So now let's move on from the ugly, and now we're going to turn the page, and we're going to move on to what do we want going forward. Here's my list. Ready? Let's go. Most of all, I want for Frontier to take a beat, to reevaluate their dedication to scientific accuracy and internally consistent universe building, to acknowledge some of the above points, and to take steps to address them, even if it must come in future DLC over the next year or so. I'm not saying I'm stomping up and down, and if you don't fix it now, I'm going to boycott. I want it now. No. We're big boys here. Acknowledge now, hey, there's some stuff, we're going to address it. You've listed these concerns. We feel that these are wrong or inaccurate or not important, and here's why. we feel that these are accurate and valid and important. And so we can't tell you today when it's going to be fixed, but we can commit that we're going to address it. That's all I'm asking for, and I think that's reasonable. Yeah. The next point, I would like them to greatly dial back the grindception mentioned above and allow for swapping engineered modules on gear, just like we have now with the ship, so I don't have to fully upgrade the same gun 3 times for stuff that I'm literally going to have it with me at all times everywhere I go. We've got some magical locker somehow that we can change our gear, change our stuff in the SRV, in the ship, in the station. Okay, so I have it all with me. It's not like ships where I have to, have a ball ache to go get the other one. If I had all of my ships with me at all times and all of my modules, I would be more than happy to, just go with that and not engineer each one bespoke. The next thing that I really, really want, crossplay. I feel like it's important that Frontier step up to the plate and acknowledge that it's a goal, or that they're not wanting to do it. Next, continue the atmospheric landing spectrum. I think that is the most to me, the most important, frontier, if you'll give the pun, of where we need to go next. Next up, fix stealth mechanics for combat play, and then let combat be. It's good enough. Do not get stuck in a quagmire of trying to chase FPS players for the next 5 years. Just fix the stealth mechanics, and then it's good enough. Focus, please. Expand greatly the non-combat loops of on-foot interaction. What do I mean by that? I mean, add ship interiors and meaningful gameplay in them. Add new SRVs and functionality for them. Add surface mining. Greatly expands the scavenging gameplay loop. Add more points of interest to interact with in non-combat ways, including caves to explore and mine or extract biodata, wrecks and facilities, ruins to interact with and study. In the Kickstarter, David Braben specifically said he had a dream, a vision for Elite where someday commanders would be engaging in archaeology on distant worlds. I would love for this to be a thing. Expand on the exobiology game loops with more flora and fauna, especially as we get more robust atmospheres. Perhaps mineralogy. Set piece locations on fleet carriers. Basically, everything that I just listed in the last, 2 minutes is lots of stuff you can do on foot to make the galaxy a real and vibrant place that don't involve pointing a shotgun at somebody's face and pulling the trigger. Like science and interactions and exploration and just all of the things that a poor, dumb Marine in 2021 who can't get a ticket on a SpaceX flight would dream about doing. I'm tired of shooting at people. I want to go play Star Trek. Please let me go be in an away team and do cool sciencey pseudo shit, but come on, man. It's what we want. Or again, maybe I'm wrong, but it's what I want in my heart. Add some form of base building. Add some form of player manufacturing. Make asteroid belts have some purpose. Add comets and wandering planets and stars to the game. Take a hard look and another pass at power play and CQC and give them some love and do something with them. Come up with some kind of a plan for Raxxla and let's get this started. It doesn't have to be found and done, but for the love of God, let's start the story moving a little. These are the things that I want, and I hope that I'm not alone in wanting them. And I hope that Frontier hears me say this as I am not Latvian. I am not screaming at you and making fun of you and being shitty to you. I am saying this as a person who, with an open heart, admits freely, I love Elite Dangerous like I can't even explain. This game is important to me. This game is a beautiful, special thing that is not like the others. And I don't want them to cheapen it. I say that with love. I don't say that with hatred. I don't say that to belittle you. I want you to take the steps to move this in the way that us space nerds want desperately. And I think that David Braben started delivering on, and it's not too late. I'm not saying this is all trash, it's all ruined. I'm saying they're starting to take steps that scare me. And I hope to God that either A, I'm just wrong, I'm reading it wrong, or B, they can still change. This is the time to fight for Elite Dangerous if you love Elite Dangerous, and to fight for it in a respectful and thoughtful way, but fight nonetheless. Don't let it slip into the absolute shit pile of mediocrity that is all of the other FPS clones out there. Roy.
I'd like to bring up a couple of things the folks have been talking about in the chat here as you've been going through your list to add to it. DeFrost SC mentioned, how about adding community skins? So I'm guessing this is like community developed skins. I think that's a great, I know other games have done that very successfully, and it
hell yes,
both expands the fashion end game and also creates a lot of engagement. Avari 97 says, what about weapon or suit upgrades available through missions or mission chains once you're allied with a faction? So it could be other, almost like the reputation chains with not just the superpowers, it could be with other factions as well.
Love it.
DeFrost SC also brought up player stations. I think we've talked about that before.
That's an Eve player right there. Love you, dude.
Let's see. Oh, one thing, a couple I was going to add. One, as an explorer, I'm thrilled with what I think is coming with the new sort of botany biology chain. Talking about Raxxla, I don't just want Raxxla. I want like 200 Raxxlas. I want to know that as I'm exploring out in the 400 billion stars, that there's a number of chances to find things that haven't been found yet, not just one. It's hidden out there somewhere. So I think they've got this massive crown jewel of Raxxla out there somewhere, and now they're building up a bunch of stuff from the bottom with finding new plants to scan and stuff. But how about some medium stuff? Some interesting things similar to what maybe more than what they've done in the past with generation ships and stuff. Just knowing that there's stuff out there and that there's a chance. You're telling me there's a chance. That's a huge incentive to go and explore, along with all the other reasons to go do that.
Oh my God, 100%, brother. Much love.
Lady Rain Cloud just also wanted to mention that she wanted you to know, I'm saying she, I don't know, it's Lady Rain Cloud, but wanted to know that they were a corpsman in the Navy and that you're speaking their language, devil dog, whatever that means.
Hell yes. Hell yes. Navy corpsmen are Marines. That's just a thing, and you need to know that. All right. Yeah, everything that you said, yes, I'm loving all of it. And everybody's heard me probably drone on and on and on about it, but I'm going to say it real quickly. Let's have some aliens out there that we don't shoot. Let's have some aliens out there that are refugees that we have to help, or that are Ferengi-like and we have to barter with, and they're always trying to screw us. Or let's have a spectrum of interactions that don't just involve we come in war and then bang, bang, bang. Let's have some, yeah. Tweaked. Share some of this love. Hop in.
Absolutely. You named the two big ones for me. I mean, crossplay has to happen. All the other games are jumping on crossplay, and it would just open up this galaxy and allow all of us friends that we all have friends that are on other platforms, and we'd finally be able to play together. And ship interiors. Yes, preferably with gameplay, but even if I can just walk around my cockpit or into one other room or something, good enough for me. And to battle, I mean, I loved everything you said, Roy, and I would be so happy if that all showed up in Elite Dangerous. That being said, I'm not scared with what I'm seeing with Odyssey. I'm not. If they just tweak, no pun intended, a few things and get the lore lined up right, the FPS had to happen. It had to come now. And now that it's here, future updates can bring all that other goodness into the game that will allow it to open up even more.
100%. Okay. Right on. So those are our thoughts. Those are our feelings. We hit a lot of things, and I hope that you guys resonate with some of them. Let me ask you, community question number 1, and please, this one was special to me. I dug deep, and I really sort of expressed a lot of things, and I hope that it resonates with you. Take a moment when the stream is done being live. Go into the comment section on the YouTube and tell us. Question number 1, what do you think we missed from the list, whether it be good, bad, or ugly? Right off the top of bat, I can tell you right off, like, I cannot believe I forgot to say, they added folders for the bookmarks. Oh my God.
Oh,
Mwah! They did, yes. And the system map looks awesome. I think I'm a little curious about the galaxy map, and that it seems to be there's some plotting issues, but like I assume that that's just alpha and that they'll get it fixed. But like, what did we miss from the good, the bad, and the ugly? What did we mention that really resonated with you? And community question number 2 is, what are you looking forward to? Roy read out some awesome examples from people that they said, but I want to hear from all of you guys. We'll start some stuff, and if you say something that really resonates, whatever, maybe that'll go into a poll, maybe that'll be a discussion topic next week. I want all of you commanders that are hearing this to have the chance to have your voice heard and to get in on this. And right now we're at a special moment. I think, if anything, today's hot patch that showed that they swapped the SRV handling back, this shows we're at a moment where Frontier is actively, honestly, really saying, tell us what you want so that we can better serve you what you want. This is the time, right now. Once things get locked and go forward, it's such a pain in the ass to change them. This is the time where your voice can make a change, where we can actually do something. And if you don't care about this game, if it's just one of a list for you, then maybe you're like, well, whatever, I'll take it for what it is, blah, blah, blah. If you love this game, if this is the game that you want to be your, like, forever, I want this to be like Eve, where 20 years from launch, it's still going strong, and it's been internally updated because the IP is so strong and the revenue is so strong that there's no reason to kill it. I want this to go. You right now can make that happen. Get your feelings heard, get your thoughts heard, and let's make the things that we like better, and the things that we're scared of or don't like or can't stand, let's figure out a way to change them. All right. State of the game and state of the alpha. I want 2 separate scores. Grade the current game and the alpha separately. Roy, go.
So for current game, I'm going to grade it. I'm going to give it a 9 for a couple of reasons. I'm glad to see the Adamaster story has got more life in it, and 2, I'm back finally from Distance Cruise 2. Thank you to Chig for helping to refuel the carrier, so we didn't have 4 more days of mining on the last jump back. And I almost don't know what to do with myself now that I'm back in the bubble after 3 months. On the alpha, I think last week I gave it a B, which B, or we could call it a 7.5. I'm going to up that to like an 8 or 9. I had a lot of fun in a little bit I've played so far with Phase 2. Lots of fun. They've still got time to fix stuff we're asking for, so that's where I am.
And Tweaked.
Well, for the base game, I'm going to go ahead and give it an 8 right now. The Adamaster story is fascinating. I have a hunch it's going to lead to bigger things. And the CG last week was great. The rewards were awesome. They're giving us things to do. Personally, in the base game, I've got a lot of BGS fires I'm working on to expand our faction. Working on a little project for Boss Lady, so I've been having a really good time with it again. The alpha, everything that I've seen, I'd give it a solid 7 right now. Very, very excited with the direction of everything that I'm seeing. And again, if they just fix a few little things, and then once they can put all of Odyssey together with the real game, it just feels like it's going to be massive. It's going to be more massive than anything I've ever seen before. It's almost turning into the game I've always wanted. And that's saying something. So I think we're on the right track for sure. I would say real quick, I wish the Xbox folk are getting restless, and I know FDev, and rightfully so, are focused on the PC Alpha right now, but I wish they would just throw a bone, just mention that the development for the consoles is ongoing and going okay or not, or tell us something, but it'd be nice to hear something that they're still working on it.
Right on. I'm going to give the current live game a 9. It's strong. It's going well. I'm loving the Galaxy is alive, and that's a job well done. The alpha development, I'm going to give it the 6. I feel, part of me feels strongly that it's a 6, and part of me feels strongly that it's an 8. And it's so I guess whatever. We'll split the difference and say a 7. I have, as stated, so many things that I am concerned about, but I also have so many things that give me hope, and it's too early to really tell where we're at. So we'll see. Kontrolldon. Give us your ratings.
Yeah, on the base game, I'm doing the grind. I'm doing kind of boring things. So, and that might be my own fault. So, gonna give it a 7 today. But the phase 2, hey, I am super excited, and it was so fun with you guys last night when we did our thing. So that's a 8.5 maybe.
Right on.
Thank you.
Right on. Yeah. All right. Tweaked. Say goodnight to the beautiful people.
Good night, everybody. I hope everybody enjoyed the show and has a wonderful weekend and week ahead, and just enjoy the game. It's going well. It plays great. There's a lot to do still.
Roy?
Walk casual, but stay dangerous.
Control.
Sov gott allihopa. Vi hörs om en vecka.
That's right. Well said. And for me, I'm going to sign off by saying everybody be excellent to each other. Everybody have your voice heard, whether it's in our comments section or on the forums or in the live streams, whatever. Speak up, do it well, do it respectfully, but try to lobby for the changes that you want. And with regard to my feeling on this grindception, this extra grindy upgrade process for the suits and the guns in Odyssey, I think the closing song says it well. Control, play us out.
Nanu, nanu.
Now that was funky. All right.